Professional wrestling is a sport incomparable to most other sports. It isn't just about the in-ring actions and the amazing moves that a person can perform. It's also about talking to the crowd, their opponents, and creating storylines that can captivate an audience. It's about creating larger-than-life characters that you usually don't see in sports such as the UFC, the NBA, or football. This characters are something similar you'd see on your favourite television show or movies, especially in a company such as WWE, who has a global audience. While these wrestlers can also be considered great in between the ropes, they most likely wouldn't last if they weren't. These wrestlers are easily the best of the best when it comes to gimmicks and character work in all of professional wrestling. Welcome to Honor Wrestling Club, and in today's video we'll be counting down the 10 best professional wrestling characters of all time. However, before we crack on with the list, I'd just like to firstly take a moment to welcome you to Honor Wrestling Club. Your presence here really does mean a lot to us, and it really helps out the channel if you click the subscribe button and the notification bell if you are new here, and the thumbs up button if you enjoy this video. Now, without further ado, welcome to the club. In at number 10, we have, you need to acknowledge him, the Tribal Chief, Roman Reigns. If someone tried to say that Roman Reigns was in the conversation for best professional wrestling characters, say 10 or even 6 years ago, they would most likely be laughed out of the building, as the big dog was super lame. Now though, with this run he's just had a Universal Champion and the Tribal Chief character, it is almost nuts to try and argue that Reigns isn't in that conversation. It still may be a controversial pick now, but honestly, nobody's been able to make wrestling this talked about in recent years. Whatever happens to Reigns now following SummerSlam, this man no doubt deserves his flowers as one of the greatest characters of all time. In number 9, we have the Big Red Machine, Kane, who was legit one of the scariest wrestlers going when he debuted. Horror and professional wrestling weirdly go together quite well, as you'll see throughout this article. Kane was almost a perfect character in his early days. As time went on with the Big Red Machine though, things did start to age poorly with the removal of his mask, people finding out more about the man behind the character, and, certain stuff to do with necrophilia that we won't talk about today, as this is a positive list. Regardless of all that though, it would be tough to say that Kane was not one of the better creations that the WWE has had, and his debut still stands as probably the greatest in the company's history, with him coming out, the big red light, him ripping the door off the cell, and the debut of his big red mask, his big red finisher, and his big red corner pyro. Simply magnificent. In number 8, we have the face of WCW with the icon Sting. Without Sting, WCW probably would have died long before 2001. Whether it is the early Surfer Sting or the Crow variations, Sting was always one of the most popular characters on television. His rivalry against the NWO was the absolute highlight of that company. Looking at his career in other promotions such as TNA and AEW, it is apparent that Sting seemingly can do no wrong and has guaranteed himself a spot as one of the greatest characters of all time. In number 7, we have the Heartbreak Kid, Shawn Michaels, who became Mr. WrestleMania for a reason. Mr. WrestleMania, the Heartbreak Kid, the Showstopper, whatever other nicknames you can come up with for Shawn Michaels, the man has earned them all. His performances throughout the mid-90s helped the WWE stay afloat at a time when they were doing god-awful work. For evidence of this, just any pay-per-view in 1995. Just any of them. His return in the early 2000s, though, was spectacular for a man who should have had years of ring rust on him. Looking at Michaels as a character, though, his work within DX, with Diesel, his later career, showcases that he can control an audience with little to no effort. Just check out his promo he cut in Montreal in 2005 for a man who can whip the crowd into a frenzy with very little effort. In number 6, we have, ooh yeah, Macho Man Randy Savage. There are very few names that fans outside of wrestling can immediately think of when talking about the WWE or wrestling in general. One of those is Randy Savage. It is a testament to the ability that brands such as Slim Jim made him the face of their marketing because of his over-the-top charisma, outfits and voice. In the world of wrestling, Savage could become the most hated villain, fighting names such as Ricky Steamboat, Hulk Hogan and George Steele, while easily transitioning to the next face of the company behind Hogan, fighting villains such as Andre the Giant and the $1 Million Man Ted DiBiase. In number 5, we have Stone Cold Steve Austin. While other names mentioned helped the WWE at a time when the company was having a problem staying relevant, that cannot be said for Steve Austin. This man became the biggest act in the company at a time when it was at its hottest, with names such as The Rock, Triple H and Mick Foley helping to create amazing stories on weekly television. It can't be argued that if Austin never came to WWE and became stone cold and white hot at the same time, wrestling might not be what it is today. Sticking with the Attitude Era though, and we have the other side of the Attitude Era coin, with the great one, The Rock. And who better to move on to than besides Austin's greatest ever rival, Dwayne The Rock Johnson? The Rock did something that was far unprecedented and became not only a major player in the world of WWE, but became one of the biggest celebrities in Hollywood, both literally and figuratively. Any time he returns, it does massive numbers, as shown by his recent return for WrestleMania 40. The Rock has audiences on the edge of their seat just by him speaking random nonsense into a microphone. In number 3, we have the Nature Boy, Ric Flair, who's the dirtiest player in the game and was a fantastic heel. While Sting was the face of WCW, what is a good face without a great bad guy to go up against? That, for Sting, was Ric Flair. Anything he said or did could make him the most hated man in the company, and he did that like nobody else. His antics on the mic and in the ring earned him the title of the dirtiest player in the game. Flair did all this amazing character work while also being considered one of the greatest from an in-ring perspective. In number 2, we have the Hulkster, Hulk Hogan, possibly the most recognisable wrestler of all time, as even non-wrestling fans know who Hulk Hogan is. Randy Savage most likely takes second place when talking about wrestlers that non-wrestling fans know. Number 1 is Hulk Hogan, without a doubt. People who never watch wrestling have probably heard of Hulk Hogan for one reason or another. His popularity was through the roof, and it saw him become the face of restaurants, the lead actor of films, and so much more. There were not many celebrities as huge as Hogan during his prime. And in number 1, we have the dead man, The Undertaker. With all that being said about these legends, there is no bigger character in WWE than The Undertaker. The decades that this man has sweated and bled for the WWE and was always around whenever the company called on him. His WrestleMania streak became such a coveted thing that it was almost as big as, if not bigger than, the world title at points. This is why Taker so rarely held the belt going into Mania, or fought for it at Mania, because if you have him be in a separate match, you have 2 matches for whichever brand he's on, the title match and Taker's match. Anyway, back to Taker's character. While there have been horror-themed characters in professional wrestling long before The Undertaker, and there will be long after, no one has been able to reach the same level as the Dead Man. And there you have it, there's our list. So what do you think? Who do you think is the greatest character of all time? Be sure to let me know in the comments section down below. If you've enjoyed this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up and click the subscribe button and the notification bell to make sure you never miss out on any of the fun content that we produce here at Honor Wrestling Club. Be sure to share this video with your friends as well. See if you can bring them into the wonderful world of professional wrestling with these magnificent, almost Hollywood-esque characters. However, until next time, I'd just like to thank you for watching and welcome to the club. See ya!